We're going to build the best football team in the SEC Conference. We're going to build the best football program in the SEC Conference.
You have now arrived at Stadium in Gale.
The kick, it's been blocked again! How about it? It's been blocked again! It's going to heat one deep down the field. It's going to be to the goal line. It's going to be gone! It's a touchdown! And the Gators have won the game! Tyreek Cleveland! How about it? I can't believe what I just saw! Dropping back to throw. Pops and fires the ball over the middle. It's Dory! It's Dory! Got a touchdown! Dory's got a touchdown! Oh, man! Dory's got a touchdown!
Ahmad Black, in his final game as a Gator, takes it all the way home and sends Urban out the winner.
You have now arrived at Stadium in Gale.
Boys and girls, ladies and gents, welcome to another episode of Stadium Miguel. It's your favorite Uncle Silk.
It's Dan.
And Delatory.
Same corner time. Negative Nancy Nick. How you doing, man? You good?
Yeah, I'm good. Weekend, spending at the ballpark. Watched number one Tennessee come in and smack the Gators around for 3 games.
I bet that made you happy.
Florida swept at home for the first time since 2013. That was Florida Gulf Coast who swept Florida then. But that 2012 team was like Brian Johnson, all those guys. They got drafted in 2012, so Florida didn't have a lot of guys left on that 2013 team.
I got more takes about it. I didn't watch the game, but I seen the shenanigans in the aftermath of that series.
Yeah, that tweet went a little wild. So Tennessee chartered a flight from Knoxville to Gainesville. Florida buses them back from the newly named Condren Ballpark. Meanwhile, my gosh, Gary Condren gives $8 million to put his name on the stadium, and the team responds by getting 5 hits in the first 2 games and losing all 3. Might ask for the money back. Excuse me.
I don't think they'll be doing that.
Yeah,
refunds.
Yeah,
non-refundable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Once that credit card transaction swipes on that Amex Centurion card, it's in.
You break, you buy.
Yeah.
you break, you buy.
Oh man.
So Tennessee goes back to the swamp to shower before they charter back to Knoxville. And a couple of those boys found some white helmets. The funny thing is, the helmets that they took, and I don't know if the helmets were locked up or left laying out, those are the only helmets that Florida wore in the last 17 years for a loss to Tennessee. So they found the one helmet that Tennessee has had success against the Gators when the Gators were wearing it. But yeah, that rubbed some people the wrong way.
I thought it was goofy. I didn't think it was like a troll on us. I was thinking like I would never want Gators to put on Tennessee shit.
Right?
Like, what's the joke? You putting on the Florida helmet? I don't get how that's a troll, bro. You putting on our equipment. Yeah.
I kind of took it as like we beat you, and now we're wearing like we've got your stuff too.
Now, if they were urinating in it, then okay, then Nick, then it's a little disrespectful.
Yeah, like stomping on it, or
right?
Whatever. Like,
did they urinate in it? Did you say they peed in it?
No,
then it's disrespectful.
Should have.
They wore it and took selfies. I don't know what these new kids got going on, but that's not like anything disrespectful to me. It just looked goofy.
All right, Gen Z, let us know. Was that a fire TikTok or not?
Right. Harris.
I can assure you that it was not.
Right.
Okay. Dan,
how was your weekend?
Gen Z spokesperson Dan Thompson.
Let me tell you what. I had a bachelor party to go to. Don't have a lot left, right? Don't have a lot left in me, but let alone a lot more bachelor parties left. So I was up in Atlanta, got the chance to play golf at the Piedmont Driving Club, which is a beautiful course up there. But went to the Braves game, went out, had a great time while we were up there. But one of the really cool things about it is, so my buddy Nick, he went to Georgia Tech, and he's kind of a he's got a lot of friends that have accomplished a lot. And they're really cool people. But to my surprise, on Friday at dinner, we're sitting down, and a guy named Graham introduces himself and sits kind of at the end of the table, the opposite side of me. My buddy Nick taps me on the shoulder. He's like, "Oh yeah, that's the athletic director for Clemson," which is just wild. So Graham just took over for the old AD that left to Miami. So got the chance to sit down with Graham after at a bar and kind of picked each other's brains for a while. He had some questions about the collective and our podcast and stuff, and I got to pick his brain about a lot of stuff going on in Clemson. I was able to text Nick a few things that I may or may not heard from that conversation. But really just I'll tell you after. It was a little bit more up Nick's alley. Yeah, it was all alleged.
I like alleged.
But no, just a really great guy, really cool guy. Very down to earth. But it was funny. We were at the bar, and if you know Buckhead, we were at this place called Five Paces, which is not a place that adults should be, let alone the athletic director for Clemson. But there was a kid wearing a black polo, and it had that script Carolina on it. He walked up to him. He's like, "Hey man, I just think your shirt looks really sharp." Like I said, nicest guy in the world. There was in fact like articles written about him, like right after he took the job, saying, "Is Graham Neff too nice to be the Clemson athletic director?" And but he walked up and, was like, "Hey, I really like your shirt." And the guy's like, "Oh, are you like, did you go to South Carolina? Are you a fan?" He's like, "No, I actually, work at Clemson." And they just chatted for, 10, 15 seconds and moved on. Well, the kid, standing next to me, and he's like, "Oh, do you guys like all know each other from Clemson, or like, what's your connection?" I was like, "No, like I went to UF. All these guys went to Georgia Tech." He's like, "What does he do for Clemson in the athletic department?" I was like, "Oh yeah, he's the athletic director." And you would have thought that these kids saw Jesus. The idea of having drinks and everything else at the bar with the Clemson athletic director was really cool. But really, down to earth guy. Great weekend. Came back yesterday early afternoon, and then I saw Nate Bargatze, who's a comedian, last night here in Tampa. Really great
hilarious
show.
Guy.
Absolutely hysterical. His stand-up is all brand new. So if you've seen him on Netflix and everything else, it's all brand new. So I'd found him during COVID, so it was really cool to see him perform. So otherwise, just a weekend for the record books.
That's cool.
So how was your weekend?
I wasn't rubbing shoulders.
Is he mostly clean?
Yeah, he's all clean.
He's clean. I remember watching him, I think like you said, during COVID and thinking, man, he is, for a clean comic, hilarious. Like doesn't curse, doesn't do anything like that.
Yeah, I don't. It's not a religious thing. I don't know what his religion, background is, or if he's a churchgoer or whatnot. But no, it's not like a Christian comic or anything else. He just doesn't curse.
He's like the Will Smith of comedy. He doesn't have to curse in his raps to sell.
Yeah, except I don't think his wife's cheating on him with half the block.
That's crazy.
More allegedly.
Sinbad is another legend that a comic that didn't curse. Sinbad got some joints, man. That's one of the comics my grandmother used to let me watch at her crib. If you haven't checked Sinbad's old shit, check it out. I don't think so, Nick.
No?
Yeah, you missed that one. Probably was like a baseball game or something. But yeah, Sinbad definitely passed away. Rest in peace, man.
No, I think Sinbad's still alive. 65 years old.
Hey,
yeah.
Take him back up. Take him back up, so. Take him back up, so.
I thought Sinbad. I got him mixed up with Heavy D.
I can see how you can confuse the two.
So like slide disrespectful too. He's like, "No, you missed that. You're probably the ball game or something." I'm like, no, he's still alive.
I damn sure thought he passed away, man. So welcome back to life, Sinbad.
So, how was your weekend? I saw you had some events at the Kush Out. It looked really cool.
Yeah, man, we had Kush House Fest. Shout out to my man Lucas Skywalker, Gainesville native. He did the Too Big song, I think a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Super talented guy. We threw the Kush House Fest together in Orlando. We had about 20 artists from around the state pull up on us, everywhere from Tallahassee, Tampa, Miami, West Palm, Jacksonville, Melbourne, you name it. They all pulled up. Some very talented people. Just a really good time. We had some painters, did some live painting with JJ the artist, Darby. I dropped my Kush House clothing line. It was good. It was a festive weekend, man.
That's awesome, man.
Good time at the Kush House. So if y'all haven't checked out Lucas Skywalker, man, follow him on all social media and check him out on YouTube. Does a wide variety of different music from, a little metal, a little rap, whatever you're looking for, man. Very talented guy out of Gainesville. But that was my weekend, just kicking it at work, man. But didn't feel like work, but it was work, just kicking it.
That's awesome, man. Well, we got a great show for you today. We're going to bring Darren Heitner on. The Gators announced a new NIL collective called the Gator Guard. Going to talk to him a little bit about that. Talk to him a little bit about NIL just in general and kind of the state of where we are almost a year later. But before we get into Darren and a few other things going on, I do want to talk about Alan Horn with State Farm Insurance. Alan Horn is a State Farm agent in Jasper, Georgia that specializes in auto, home, renters, life, business insurance, and retirement planning in Georgia, Florida, Alabama, and Tennessee. Check them out at alanhorninsurance.com or give them a call at 706-692-2888. Again, Alan Horn, that's HORNE, insurance.com, 706-692-2888. And want to say congratulations to Alan. Texted us yesterday that he got engaged this weekend.
The boy was on proposal watch, and he came through. He fully committed.
That's right. So Nick is the next one on the
list.
Watch.
You've been on the watch, man. You've been on the watch longer than McLean, man. You don't commit watch?
Nick,
you're muted, man. Yeah, I know you want to be muted, but I know you want to be muted, Nick, but you got to talk right now. What's up, man? He cut off his camera now. Yeah, I got to get out of here.
All right. Nah, Darren Heitner, is he in the green room yet?
Yeah, Darren Heitner is here. Nick, you are saved by the bell. And with that, we do want to welcome Darren Heitner to, I believe, the third or fourth time he's been on Stadium and Gale with Heitner Law. You know him from Twitter. You know him as a adjunct professor at UF, and you know him as one of the architects behind Florida's NIL law. Darren, how are you doing this evening, my friend?
I'm doing great. How are you all?
Good, man. Good.
Darren, they were walking me to the altar. Thank you for showing up and saving me from that conversation.
Anytime.
Nick's been on proposal watch for about 3 years now. So Darren, wanted to chat with you about a number of things, obviously NIL, but before we get into that, do want to talk to you a little bit about the Gator Guard. You were on the scoop and helped solidify the new Gator Guard, which is a new NIL collective for the University of Florida. Wanted to just chat and kind of learn a little bit more about who Gator Guard is going to be going after and kind of what their place is in the University of Florida NIL marketplace, if you will.
Yeah, it happened real fast. I think it began at the beginning of last week. I got a call from Hugh Hathcock, who introduced himself in that first call. We had never spoken before. And he definitely let me know about that very generous donation he had previously made to the university, that $12.6 million to the athletic department. But we got to talking about beyond just what he and his colleagues could do for the athletic department to NIL, and whether or not Florida was competitive enough, but that wasn't even sufficient. It was to be a complete leader, to be at the top of the pack. And so we got to talking, brainstorming what that would look like, including just spitballing names. I mean, we didn't actually come up with the Gator Guard name until the night before he started hitting the ground running and raising money. So I think I woke up the next day. It was Wednesday or Thursday. I'm forgetting now. But I spoke with Hugh again. We resolved on the Gator Guard name. And then, right away, he's like, well, I've got two other people to join me. We're each putting in $1 million. So there's $3 million right there. He's like, can you get something out there? And I was like, absolutely. Let's talk about what that messaging should be. And maybe it took us a minute or two, and then he said, click send. And so then it was out there on Twitter and just spreading like wildfire. I headed out of the office to a lunch meeting, and I think within the next 15, 30 minutes, he texts me and calls me saying, we got another $1 million. And then another 10, 15 minutes later, calls me again and says, we got another $1 million. We're at 5. Wow. But what is it all about? I mean, the intention of Gator Guard is to live harmoniously with the Gator Collective, whereas the Gator Collective is for every single fan to contribute money monthly or annually and have a subscription to access various content, have opportunities for in-person appearances, so on and so forth. I think a lot of your listeners know what the Gator Collective is all about. This is a bit different. It's supposed to be a very small, exclusive group of high net worth individuals, each pooling or providing money above a certain threshold, and strictly for NIL purposes. And to supplement what the Gator Collective has already accomplished thus far, it is not at all intended to compete whatsoever, but this is really for that really small network of very influential, high net worth people who had traditionally supported the university and the athletic department and will continue to do so. But Hugh leading this effort, just asking more and more of those people to put in money on an annual basis.
Is it working kind of with the collective? I understand that, now with NIL, a lot of these people, especially the bigger donors, are used to sending money either to UF boosters or to UF, and now there's kind of different, maybe even competing hands inside the university. Is this kind of working with the collective in terms of, hey, this is how we can affect NIL?
Very much so. Eddie was very involved as soon as I got the first call from Hugh. And we wrestled with whether or not this should actually be created within the scope of Gator Collective or be this sort of separate organization that just works very closely. And we resolved, at least for the time being, of the latter, that it would be a separate entity that does work very cohesively and in conjunction with the Gator Collective. And so not competitive whatsoever, and perhaps even some money going from one entity to the other, probably Gator Guard to Gator Collective. And they are, Hugh and Eddie and Jed and everyone else involved in Gator Collective, I'm sure they're continuously in conversation to figure out how they can help each other out. I have an echo on my side.
Yeah, just a small echo. Darren, while you're taking a look at that, has the Gator Guard announced kind of what their NIL process is going to be to compensate, not necessarily in dollars, but obviously the Gator Collective has done access with interviews and events and things of that nature. Is the Gator Guard going to be doing similar?
Yeah, look, I mean, importantly, Hugh, just like Eddie at the Gator Collective, absolutely wants to be above board, not to play in the gray and follow the edicts of the NCAA and it's very basic NIL regulations, and also obviously follow the law of the state of Florida as well. So you're absolutely going to see quid pro quo in every single situation wherever money is being offered to a player. And whereas other groups around the country may be dangling a carrot and offering money to players before they're committed, that's not going to be the case here.
Perfect. And then Darren, I want to just kind of ask, last couple of questions here. I want to ask the state of NIL. We're about a year into it. Obviously, I know that there was the legislative session that passed. No changes were made to the law. But in your opinion, how do you think the state of Florida sits right now, I guess, compared to the law that was originally drafted and kind of the intents of what you guys wanted out of the law and where we're at now? And then how do you compare that to some other, states that maybe have a little bit more, I guess, liberal legislation on what's allowed and what's not? And I don't mean liberal as in Republican or as in Democrat, but maybe just a little bit looser in terms of what they allow.
Well, first of all, audio check. Is this better?
Yeah, much better.
All right. Awesome. So, look, I mean, it's so interesting going back to the tail end of 2019 now, and us in Florida being a leader in drafting legislation, which, it changed a lot from when it was first drafted, and other bells and whistles were put in that now, after the NCAA came in June 30, 2021, and issued its very bare bones interim NIL policy, which, by the way, 10 months later is still the same exact. So I don't know how interim it is. It was a lot less in terms of regulation and prohibitions than what we have in Florida. And many other states followed our lead and basically drafted similar legislation, some going further. Texas, South Carolina, are a couple of states that have even more what I would call oppressive regulations. But yeah, you look at what Alabama did, completely repealing its NIL law because it found that it had a disadvantage compared to schools in states that don't have any NIL law, compared to states that maybe have lesser restrictions. And then you look more recently, states like Mississippi and I believe Tennessee being the latest to alter their own laws to loosen it up a bit, scale back. And there was an attempt this year in Florida. Chip LaMarca, who sponsored the original legislation, sponsored a piece of legislation this year that would have removed the prohibition on schools and athletic departments from causing compensation for athletes. And it never even reached the floor. The House Speaker decided it just was not a priority and maybe even was against it altogether. I'm not sure. So our legislative session is done. I mean, we just had a special session in Florida to repeal Disney's tax exemption.
Right.
NIL did not come up for anyone who was thinking that it would. So, yeah, nothing's going to change, I don't think, until perhaps the beginning of next year. And maybe that does provide the schools in the state a little bit of a disadvantage, but then you look at what's being accomplished with the Gator Collective, with Gator Guard, and I think we'll be okay.
Darren, where does your opinion fall there when it comes to schools being able to serve as middlemen or intermediaries in securing NIL contracts and deals for players?
I think there's a reason why we don't see it. I mean, so think about the half of the states that don't have an NIL law on the books, and even think about the schools in Alabama now. Are you seeing or hearing any deal making, any procurement of opportunities by the schools themselves? And the answer is no. I think there were some whispers early on, or not even early on, but some time ago when Ohio State came out with some sort of press release indicating almost that it seemed as though the school would get more involved, but I haven't seen that specifically. So I think schools are looking at it and talking internally to their compliance departments, talking internally to their lawyers, and assessing whether the enhanced exposure and increased potential liability is worth it. And the answer, I believe, is a resounding no. And that's true with regard to a lot of athletic directors that I've spoken with across the country who said, even if we're in a state that currently doesn't allow for us to cause compensation, if that changes, we're not going to cause compensation. We're going to be hands off. We'll provide contact information to brands if they want it. We'll help with group licensing by partnering with third-party brands for the purpose of selling jerseys with player names, etc. But we don't want to be out there on the path and reaching out to Gatorade, Jordan Brand, etc., and saying, hey, sponsor this athlete or that athlete, because it just invites unnecessary exposure. And also, I don't think the NCAA would look too fondly upon that.
What do you think, speaking of the NCAA, how do you think they view people like guys like Ruiz and the way they kind of conduct themselves, kind of like a general manager, the way they communicate on social media? What do you think the NCAA would do in situations like that, or how they will step in? Well, would they at all? I don't know.
Yeah, when it comes to the NCAA, I always am fearful to speculate or make any assumptions because it seems like the NCAA always zags when you think it will zig. You know, and just because the NCAA has done nothing over 10 months with regard to enforcement, that doesn't mean that all of a sudden it won't try to make an example out of somebody. And it could very well be the specific circumstance that you mentioned. I mean, I'm sure that the NCAA in Indianapolis is watching every single thing that's occurring and may try to poke holes and make determinations that some deal making is improper and unethical and against their rules. And if that does occur, yeah, you could see certain players be punished. I mean, nothing's going to happen to like a John Ruiz or to Aspire Sports out in Tennessee or any of these entities who are out there or individuals who are doing these deals unless they're violating state laws, which I don't believe that they are. The concern is if there's a violation of the NCAA rules and regulations, who's going to get hurt? It's the athlete and perhaps the school. But the biggest risk is to the athlete. And so I hope that the athletes are definitely conducting their diligence and making sure that every single contract and offer is above board. Because, I know you mentioned Ruiz, but I think the biggest example, if the NCAA is going to put its foot down, I think that's the Tennessee deal with Nika. Because, the agreement may say this isn't an inducement, but that doesn't matter. The kid wasn't committed yet.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're going to offer the kid, and I shouldn't even call him a kid, but if you're going to offer an athlete, a huge guarantee upon signing, and then upwards of $8 million throughout the term of his enrollment, and he's not yet committed, and he has to perform all these deliverables and obligations in a specific jurisdiction and to the benefit of a specific university, you can call it whatever you want. I think we can all make our own assumptions as to what it is.
Mm-hmm. Darren, I've got a question on that. Have we yet run into an incident around the country, and I haven't followed closely enough, where a player has signed a contract and did the deliverables, what maybe wasn't given, full payment, and had to sue or bring about any sort of legal action against a collective or an entity that maybe promised something and wasn't able to deliver? Because I feel like we might be seeing some of that in the not too distant future. I just wasn't sure if it happened yet.
Not yet, at least not to my knowledge. And every lawsuit filing is a public document. It's a bit hard sometimes to track them across the country. It's easier when these filings are made in federal court, much more difficult to find state by state and circuit court. But I would think that it would be exposed, and I haven't seen it yet, although that's not all that surprising either. Number one, if it's a small potato deal and there's a breach, it's usually not worth it to either the brand or the athlete to file suit.
Mm-hmm.
But all of that said, I have the full expectation that within the next few years, we will see litigation in this space. And it will be very interesting if, let's say, it's a collective that offers 8 figures to an athlete and just doesn't have the money to pay it when it's due. What's the athlete going to do? And I would think the athlete is going to sue. And one thing that I've asked and wondered is, are the athletes considering going beyond just contracting with the collective, or I guess it doesn't really matter as much with solidified brands, but let's stick on collectives. Are they also asking for personal guarantees from the people behind it? Because while the collective may not have assets, a lot of the people who are involved in these collectives do have deep pockets. And so by putting personal guarantees in these contracts, they would add clauses that provide some safety if in fact the deal goes awry.
Yeah, that was just going to be my next question, and maybe final question here is, are the collectives set up, and I'm talking just in generalities here, are a lot of them set up just as individual LLCs, or would there be an opportunity to go after the individual, members or leaders of that collective group where those that are donating or those that are, leading the organization would be exposed?
Yeah, by and large, these collectives are being set up as for-profit or not-for-profit entities. And so I think it would be rather challenging for an athlete to pierce the corporate veil and go after the individuals who are a part of it, unless we're talking about an instance where somebody at the collective committed fraud, or it's really a collective that only a single person has created and is backing, and you'd argue that it's an alter ego. But otherwise, as I mentioned before, unless there's some sort of personal guarantee in the language of the agreement, I think it would probably be rather difficult for the athlete to pierce the corporate veil and go after the individuals.
Interesting. Nick, Silk, got any final questions, or else we'll let Darren go? I know that he's got a newborn, and so congratulations to you, my friend, and we'll let you run.
What do you rank, before you get out here, what do you rank where we at now with the new collective with the Guard and them joining the Gator collective and everything we got going from a Gator perspective? What do you rank us amongst the top NIL programs around the country?
It's a great question, because if you asked me that question 2 weeks ago, I'd say we've done a tremendous job as being a first, in terms of a state where we were a first to have a July 1, 2021 effective date for NIL and having a lead there, being a first and creating a collective. I mean, understand the reason why all these groups are called collectives is because we decided to call our organization, Gator Collective. So we were first there too. I think though, with time, even though Eddie and his crew have done a tremendous job in getting thousands of subscribers and I think roughly $500,000 annualized through subscriptions, we have to be honest and realize that others out there at other schools have raised a lot of money, a lot more than 500,000. So 2 weeks ago, I'd say we're competitive. Now, I'd say we're at the top.
It's amazing what those kind of deep pockets can do in such a short amount of time. It is interesting. I never thought of it that way, though. The Gator Collective was kind of first, and that was because as the NCAA not only dragged their feet, but went kicking and screaming to Congress, and then ultimately, threw their hands up in the air and said it's up to the states. Florida was, one of those first early adopters, and I think Florida did a good job with Eddie and yourself and Jen to kind of kick off the Gator Collective. And I'm looking at a site now and looking through all of these different ones, and man, like Georgia, Grambling has the Icon Collective. Indiana, Kansas, like there's just everyone has something now, and it's just funny to hear you say, they're called collectives because the Gator Collective was first.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, what is a collective? I bet at least half the groups out there probably never even looked up the definition of a collective. They just decided to be a collective because of what was started in Gainesville. So it's pretty interesting.
That's awesome.
Michigan won't like it, but the leaders and the best. There you go. Put that on the Gator Collective.
That's right. Well, Darren, we appreciate your time, my friend. Best of luck with everything. We'll talk to you soon, my friend.
All right, y'all. Take care.
Thanks. I didn't even think about that the Gator Collective was the first. Now you have all these other collectives. They're all just thieving,
I like them. So I'm going through On Threes. They have a guide to NIL collectives. I like Memphis's. I lost it.
What do you like about it?
Memphis is called the 901 Fund. I think it just
you just like the name?
I just like the name. That's it. I bring no other intelligent conversation to the table. I like the name.
I like it.
Miami had to bring back the U, but I thought the U was back.
The U's always back every year on social media during the offseason.
But they got Jorge Masvidal as one of the founders for Bring Back the U. So I got nothing
What are you guys' opinion on what we doing NIL wise? This was a big announcement. And shout out to that guy, man. I had no idea he was following me on Twitter. I was like, bro, I got wealthy ass people following me. I need to follow these type of people back, bro.
Yeah.
Shout out to him, man. But what do you guys think about that news? I thought that was huge. I want to see how it translate to the trail and even the players on campus, what type of deals and how this all works out. But I think it's great news.
I think the Gator Collective was great, and it's a grassroots movement.
It still is great.
Yeah, it was. It's still.
It's for the price of a Starbucks latte, you can get access to content from the guys that previously you only saw on TV. It gets players paid. But like Darren said, if they've annualized 500,000, that's cool. Miami's had a billionaire that just gave a basketball player a 2-year, $400,000 a year contract in a car, essentially. So the Gator Collective, as great as it is, and they've been great with us I
can't wait till all this got to get paid, man. That's gonna be the best part when they actually got to pay. It sounds fun to announce, but when these players start bumming out and you got to give them $400,000 or $500,000 for essentially nothing at all,
getting 4.6 points off the bench. Hey,
right?
Need that $45,000 check, homie.
Yeah, that's the thing. All this stuff sounds good, but I want to see them all these big deals paid out, and then we'll revisit all these deals in the future. But I'm not buying $400,000 for a guy that's getting those type of stats, man.
Yeah, no, not at all.
I thought it was funny that Nick Saban. Remember before last year, he's like, "Yeah, Bryce Young got $1 million name, image, likeness deal, and was using it as a recruiting tool." 1 year later, and he's like, "You know what? This is out of control. We need legislation." I'm like, yeah, weird. You're the highest paid public servant.
I'm not Nick.
The state of
if
Alabama.
Nick tell you something, I'm gonna tell you something, Nick. You should listen to Nick.
Nick's talking.
Whenever Nick say something, whenever he say something, he's been right. Whenever he say something, you guys need to fix something, and if we don't fix it or the people don't fix it, he just go take advantage of it. like he's doing the portal now. He told everybody this is free agency. This is a bad idea. Now look what he's doing.
Nick Saban when it came
He's
up,
just picking
he had the
everybody's
most,
roster. He low-key picked Georgia's roster. Nobody even talk about that really.
he
But
had the most badass, savage,
After a natty.
like low-key. They asked him about the portal, and he was like, I don't think we're going to lose any of our good players. And I think we'll get some of these other good players to come to our school. I was like,
Yeah, and then he goes and gets
man.
Jamar Gibbs, right?
Yeah, he's just like, Nick Saban's just like, hey, who was that all ACC running back? Like, let's just, does he want to play for us?
The Louisville wide receiver. Like, he's just plugging the best, fastest players around the country like it's nothing, man.
But on the NIL front, there's like, so Darren was talking about Florida wanting to do things above board. There's stuff like Florida needs money in a war chest. And Billy Neighbors called it a war chest. And that's not to go get recruits. That's to keep guys on your roster. Because don't think
That's
this is
the
happening.
recruits are watching though.
Other schools are going through back channels and talking to players on rosters and saying, hey, if you hit the portal, we can give you this in an NIL deal. And now you've got players on Florida's roster, Florida State, Miami, maybe not Florida State's roster. You got players on good rosters who are getting calls from other schools and saying, listen, if you transfer to our school, we can give you this 6-figure NIL deal. And you've got 1 year left. Like someone called Jervon Dexter and say, hey, you got 1 year before you're going to hit the draft. Come play it here. This is what we can do for you NIL-wise. And schools and now, not schools, but coaches and collectives are trying to figure out how much money do we have just to keep the guys that are on our team.
Right. Well, and I think the biggest thing, and I want to talk a little bit about the Tampa Gator event with Billy Napier here in a few minutes, but I was talking to my buddy Derek after the event, and the answer that in my opinion is you never have enough money, right? There's always going to be somebody that is going to bid more than you think somebody is worth, right? And if you don't believe me, just look at the job market, right? Like you're in a role where you're happy. If somebody comes and offers you $40,000 more, all of a sudden your interest could potentially change, right? Doesn't mean that you're unhappy. It just means that money talks. And no matter how much money you have for a particular player, there's always going to be somebody that has more or is willing to pay more for that particular person. Because for school, that might be the one missing piece that they need. And you say, hey, we can give you $100,000. And all of a sudden a school that's missing a defensive tackle might say, hey, Gervon, here's $250,000. And at some point in time, you've got to figure out, is that worth the money or not, right? I'm not saying that he is or not saying that he isn't. That's just going to happen. And so I'm starting to see that start to percolate a little bit into NIL. So when Nick Saban, in my opinion, talks a little bit about it's out of control, I think that that's a big part of it as well. Obviously, they're throwing astronomical numbers at players, and there's going to be players now or recruits now that reap benefits that I don't always think that the money is always going to be necessarily this high, or there might be more stipulation more stipulations behind it. But I do think you're starting to see this almost job market, trend hit college athletes, and I'm curious to see how it ultimately does shake out. Right? And does a player transfer for maybe not as good of a school because they are making significantly more money and they can go and maybe be a star at that school?
I mean, check out what Mims pretty much tested the free agent market like a pro player. Went on a visit to Tallahassee, had them have the whole city of Tallahassee greet him, give him the key to the city, kissed a few babies. He's ready to take over the Capitol, and then Georgia supposedly got some big NIL deal, and he's back in Athens, right? Kid could do that. If you're a 5-star backup, you could go take visits a few campuses and see what those NIL offers look like, those campuses look like, and weigh your decisions. Again,
it's recruiting. Recruiting doesn't end. Recruiting doesn't end with
man.
the
they got to adjust.
NLI.
They got to adjust. That's just too wild that a player could jump in the portal like that, weigh their options, and then just go back to school. There's no way they keep that like that. I love it. Right. I hope it stays like that. You know what I'm saying? I'm pro players. And I think there's just too much power for the players, and I think they're gonna have to draw some guidelines here in a minute.
Yeah, no, I think we're gonna start to see that. I don't know when, because all of this right now is, done by state legislatures, and a lot of state legislatures like Florida are only in session for a couple of months unless you hop into a session, a special session, but I don't see a lot of special sessions happening around NIL. So I'm curious. And I think a lot of this is going to be, some of this law is going to get determined by the courts, and then some of it is going to be determined by some of these state legislatures trying to figure it out. But right now it is very, very wild, wild west. And, I don't know if there's much more that we can say or do about it other than kind of sit back and watch. I do think that the Gator Guard is great. I think that it's going to try to attract a different donor base, which is great. There's room for everybody at the inn. Shout out to what they've been able to do with the Gator Collective. There's a few other organizations as well, but to have Hugh, who I think earlier last week, or maybe it was the week before, also announced that he was going to donate $12 million to the University Athletic Department, to come around and give another $1 million and bring in a group of his friends that will probably attract other friends at that level, to probably provide a different level of access is certainly going to be something to watch. And it's going to be on this side of it rather than begging for NIL money so we could send our offense coordinator cigars for a player that didn't commit.
Yeah, man. I gotta have an owner's meeting with TJ about that type of stuff.
And what kind of cigars is he signing him? Gee, that was an expensive box of cigars.
You imagine donating to a cigar fund and a little about a player you're about to get, right? And then or you think you're about to get, and then it just falls through.
TJ was big. TJ was big mad at War Chant for a while.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. That Florida State media beef is weird, man. I don't know what they got going on that side. We get along around here. Everybody's cool. We cooling, right? No beef on the Gator side. Everybody's straight, right?
For the most part, I think you beef with a couple people, but other than that,
I don't beef with any writers. Oh yeah, a few, but then we don't.
I don't beef with any.
No, not me personally.
Not personal. It's not personal. No.
I don't beef. I'm talking about the Gator. Us as a group. Yeah, we have a few. We have a few people that report around here that we getting the hell up out of here if they send out the wrong tweets. But I don't have any beef with anybody. It's all love, man. Except for charts. Yeah, forever block. But everybody else I ain't got no problem with, man.
Oh man. It's nuts. So I do want to get into Billy Napier's comments at the Tampa Gator Club. Before we do that, let's give a quick hello to our friends over at Game Time Sidekicks. Use promo code STADIUM at checkout if you're looking for a vacuum sealed cup. 350 different schools, a bunch of golfers and NFLPA. You can get some customized stuff as well. GameTimeSidekicks.com. If you're using a Yeti, if you're using some of the other Ozark brand, I think is the Walmart one. Do take a look at Game Time Sidekicks. Really fantastic product, holds up well. I've been using mine for a year, no nicks or dings in it. Keeping my cups cool, drinks cool, and hot depending on the weather. So GameTimeSidekicks.com, promo code STADIUM. I had the distinct opportunity, shout out to my friend Rick, always been a big fan of Rick. He got me the opportunity to listen to Billy Napier speak at the media session before the Tampa Gator Club event, and then to speak to the large group. So a couple of quotes that I do want to bring up here. One of the things that he talked a lot about, and this is just going to kind of be just more reciting some of his comments. The big message is we want to run a first-class organization with integrity. We've empowered a lot of great people. We've tried to create life-changing opportunities, not just about football, but it's about creating an experience. And a lot of that had to do with the Gator Made program. And a lot of that had to do with the fact that, for 3, 4, 5, 6 years, however long it may be that a student's at the University of Florida, he wants to be able to prepare students to not only be successful in the football field, but in the classroom and then life outside of the classroom and after sports as well. So he talked extensively about Savannah and about Marcus and a few of the other folks, Vernell Brown, that are a part of that Gator Made program and what they're trying to do, resume writing, internship opportunities, and mock interviews and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of his presentation to not only the media, but to the fans that were there in attendance was very much about building the brand of the University of Florida football program, not just being about playing football, but also, really focusing on building better men, which I thought was great. talked a lot of system and routine stuff. He did say the Gator Made program equips and educates student athletes for a new era. He did talk a lot about NIL. He said there's a lot of positives for name, image, likeness, including experience with taxes, networking, working, engaging, having conversation and articulating yourself, and that their intention is to equip all of their players with a year-round curriculum. He did talk about Anthony Richardson. He mentioned that you play quarterback at the University of Florida. You're the standard bearer for the team. Anthony has taken complete ownership. Nick wrote a great article about him after the conversation that he had with Anthony Richardson. But he said, we've disciplined him, and he knows there's consequences. With mistakes come an opportunity for growth, which I thought was a great quote. Let's see. Talked a lot about running a first-class organization with integrity. Let's see. He did, when going back to NIL. Sorry, I know this is all over the place, but we're in an adjustment phase regarding name, image, likeness. We're still trying to solve it as we move forward. We've got to be competitive. Name, image, likeness is a factor in recruiting without NIL. And I thought this was interesting. He said, I would still be at the University of Louisiana because I could be who I am. One of the reasons I'm here is because of NIL, which I thought was an interesting quote. He said NIL levels the playing field. And, he goes on to talk about that. But I did think that was an interesting quote, coming, and leaving your old job because, you feel like NIL will level the higher level of the playing field. Just thought, more so than anything, it was interesting. Let's see. He mentioned somebody in the crowd kind of asked about a commitment. He didn't mention him by name, but it was back when Tyree Patterson committed. He said, we just had a good young man commit, and we're going to look back and say that was a good take. Of course, he's going to say that, but did think it was nice for him to go out on a special limb to mention that. He also said that we have some positions where we have to stay healthy. We've got a good group of ones and a couple good twos out there. We're going to need to be aggressive in the transfer portal. And then finally, this got, I think, the loudest cheer of the night. Paul Feinbaum had some things about him thinking that Florida was going to really struggle this year. And he said, I know it's couldn't, but I could care less what Paul Feinbaum says. We've got a great group of individuals here. So all in all, thought Billy Napier did really well, dressed the part, looked great.
It was Hong Kong Adrian. What's his name?
Andy. Hong Kong Andy.
Hong Kong Adrian.
Yeah, I don't know how many Adrians there are in Hong Kong. There might be a few. So shout out if you're listening in Hong Kong.
Nobody thought there were Andys in Hong Kong. So
I hate to disappoint you. I do not think his legal birth name is Andy or Andrew.
What?
No.
Are you sure, Daniel?
He's
I'm
from
gonna
Hong
go out
Kong.
on a limb.
It's like the call center thing, man. When the guy from Hong Kong answers, he's like, "My name's Tom." You're like, "Yeah, all right, but
just not sure that it is." I
know a Tom when I hear one.
Nick, I think I'm curious to know your thoughts are. Definitely a football coach, though. A lot of coach speak. He spoke for, I think I was looking at the clock, around 28 minutes, and that left him with 32 minutes for questions. And 5 total questions got answered, and one of them got answered in about a sentence or two. So definitely a bit of you just got a lot of words, I guess.
He's a hand talker too.
Very much a hand talker.
Very big hand talker. He after practice too, he'll like uncap his Gatorade and take a sip, and then he doesn't put the cap back on. And then I'm like sitting there staring at
He's
the
like
Gatorade.
baby Nick Saban, bro. Like his mannerisms.
Yeah.
Like, you watch the Kobe videos and Jordan, and their mannerisms are so close together of like the most subtle things.
I watched one too that was Vince Carter. It was like Jordan and then Vince Carter back to back. It was just like the same stuff. But yeah, he's Nick Saban does the he ends ending a sentence with a period. He ends it with "ite."
Yeah, Napier's definitely
Billy Napier goes right.
Well, he does it. He does ites too.
Ites, right. That's a North Georgia thing, I'm guessing. He's a very intentional. He's talked slow. He's got a kind of a flat line to his demeanor. But I think he is very intentional.
I would say
with
flatline. Calmness, man. That's a better word.
I
Flatline mean the guy's dead, Nick.
No, he's not
All
Sinbad.
right, we can't keep killing
I'm
him.
going to side with Silk here. I'm going to side
Don't
with
kill the
Silk on
coach,
this
man.
one.
This is the murder show. We're just
There's a
killing people.
calmness that
Yeah.
I like, but
Yeah.
flatline sounds crazy.
Corey killed Sinbad. Nick killed Billy Napier.
He killed the coach, so there's more beef with him.
Oh man, they're gonna be coming for me like Matt Baker. I didn't kill Billy Napier.
Nick, they're already coming for you.
Yeah, bro. Last
I
week,
think
bro, you negative Nicholas, man.
Watch, just running through the schedule.
I said 6 wins, man. That's disrespectful.
I did not.
Yeah, you did.
Brandon
and you coerced. How is it? Coerced or coerced? Coerced. But that word to our guess is what you did, Nick.
Yeah, you did.
I
You
said,
it
hey,
up.
you're throwing out a lot of 8 wins for teams like Missouri and South Carolina. What does that mean for Florida?
Oh, that means they not getting 8 wins. That means South Carolina, Missouri not getting 8 wins is what that means. He's just mistaking some things. Because if we got to decide between Florida and South Carolina or Missouri getting 8 wins, I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's going to be us, man.
Well, Marcelo picked South Carolina to beat Florida. I said 7 wins, 7-5 is pretty realistic. 8 wins, I think, is a really good season.
He probably needs to jump off that sinking ship then.
The ship is sinking.
Nick, I do want to ask you about that take. We didn't really get a super long chance to talk about it last week, and the internet was obviously a fury with your take. You think the biggest deficiencies for Florida next season are, obviously, I know you're going to say hard schedule, but your biggest deficiencies you think are what for this team?
Receiver's better than he thought already, right?
Mm-hmm.
You lied a little bit about receiver. You scared the shit out of people.
I think Florida's still going to look for a slot receiver in the transfer portal.
I believe they're looking at one from Arizona State, if I'm not mistaken.
I think unless Alabama offers that will be a Gator commit.
Think Bama want him too?
Listen, bro, Bama is in the position where it's just like, I want people just so they're not on other rosters, and we'll put him
I don't think they go
8th on our depth chart.
Their receiver room was crazy, and they just added a beast. There's no way they after this kid.
I don't think Bama's going to offer, but I think if Bama were to offer, that would be where the commitment would go. So am I wrong saying I don't think the receiver room is good if the coaching staff is actively trying to make the room better?
Oh no, they could be better. I just don't think it's as bad as you say. I'm not saying it's elite or great or anything. But you called it one of the worst receiver rooms. We've had some way. I thought about. You said that. I thought about the wide receiver rooms we had, man. And you tried them boys.
Stop disrespecting Ahmad Fullwood. I know you were going.
Ahmad Fullwood, CJ Wharton, but we had some.
Oh my gosh,
CJ
those
Wharton.
are 2 names I have not thought about. Dude, people thought that CJ Wharton was the next Wes Welker.
Oh my God, Vari led that hive, man.
Kiss the baby. Kiss the baby would have been great at Florida if he just wouldn't let his hands fly and wasn't a Midtown Maniac. He had the potential.
I don't think he did.
Had the potential. See,
they're just not sure. Not sure that he
shout out to CJ Wharton. Where are you at, man? What are you doing now?
Yeah, I want to shoot some content with guys like that. So CJ Wharton would be a good conversation for sure. Nick, how are we feeling about that wide receiver transfer? We feel good about him. He coming up for a visit, correct?
Yeah, he's going to be here on a visit. I think Florida should feel good about landing him. Also, to me, it's I think what other positions? I think you need some help at defensive tackle.
For sure.
I think you're going to need help at maybe safety for next year. I say that cautiously because I think that obviously Kamari Wilson is getting first team reps in the spring game or reps with the first team. So they clearly think he's going to be a good player. Corey Collier is going into his redshirt freshman year, excuse me. So you've got guys there, but
I think we found that safety. I think we're okay at safety.
I think I think they might be looking for an older safety who could start next year and maybe bridge the gap if a Corey Collier isn't ready next year to start.
Right. I would like to see.
I think middle linebacker, you might need help.
At middle linebacker.
Yeah. You got Derek Wingo, a guy that's the first time he's playing middle linebacker.
Yeah. They showed some promise though. Like they had good spring, so I don't think that's a need. You got some unknowns for the fall, but I thought they all looked good, and I wasn't worried about that room after what I saw in the spring. You think we need to still add a veteran linebacker?
Here's a little peek. I tell my friends who are Michigan fans because they get all hype in spring. I'm like, nobody has a bad spring. Spring is time. Like the stories that we write. There's always an outlier. There's always an outlier.
We've had some bad springs. I don't know what you're talking about. We've had some terrible springs.
Spring's a time where you write good stories. Everyone is playing well. Everyone's having like Rick Wells. I wrote many Rick Wells stories in the spring.
Yeah, that's your job. But I'm saying we've had bad springs. You got to sensationalize some things to get some clicks. I get it. But we've had some springs, man, where it's just like, yo.
We had springs where we didn't even have a game because we didn't have enough offensive linemen.
Correct.
Right? Like we've yes, there is more feel-good stories during the spring than not, right? But I do feel like there should be more confidence about this team after spring than there was before.
But tape is tape, so you can watch a linebacker lost and guessing on downs, and you can tell he don't know what the hell he doing in run or pass situations. Just from rewatching the spring game, I thought the linebackers we're gonna be okay at linebacker. We're very athletic. They look like they with the shits. They know what they're doing. I like the way these guys. We didn't blitz a lot, so we don't get to see these guys really downhill and attacking because it's a spring game. Well, but from a fundamental and foundation standpoint, I like what I seen at linebacker. I think we're gonna be all right. And DeJuan Black is tweeting all type of wild captions, man. I keep telling him, boy, you keep tweeting these captions. I need to see some action.
What's he tweeting?
He's tweeting like he about to be the next, like he about to win the buckets or something. He talking reckless. He talking crazy. I don't know. I'm not gonna say he talking crazy. He's feeling good, man. He's feeling good. He should feel good. He's a great athlete, man. But you know, everybody tweet, everybody talk. I want to see him make some shit happen, man. He got a lot of ability. But I like what I saw from him in the spring game. I like what I saw from Wingo. I like what I saw from even Bernie. I know people not gonna like that, but coaching does a lot, bro. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I like Mike P.
Yeah, and
keep going on your list, Nick. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut.
Something Jay Bateman said about Bernie that we hadn't really talked about. I mean, like he came in and Bernie's played like outside linebacker, middle linebacker, star, and came in as a safety. It was a safety as a freshman, so he's kind of been moved all around. And Bateman said, I think that's even unfair, like to me. And Bateman obviously doesn't know what Bernie looked like when he came in 18 years old as a freshman, but he's like, this is a middle linebacker. And I think he's probably been moved around unfairly. And that while a lot of guys will tell you, hey, I like that I've played multiple positions because that goes on film and will help me in the NFL. It can also hurt your development if you're playing other positions that you shouldn't be playing. So I know that there's not a lot of love for Amari Burney. I could see that every time I released a depth chart and it was Amari Burney and Ventrell Miller, and people were not super happy about that. But I think he is a good player. He had a good spring.
I do want to go over some spring awards. Before we do that, let's give a shout out to our friends over at Home Field Apparel. Visit them, homefieldapparel.com. Use promo code Stadium and Gale and get 15% off of your order. They are releasing a bunch of new schools in the next few weeks. They are going to be doing their big new Saturday season 4 starting on May 21st. But a lot of new things: Colorado, Xavier, West Virginia, Houston, Fairfield, and then a bunch of new schools that will be following in May. So still a lot of Florida Gator stuff on there, but if you are looking for the best vintage college apparel out there, go visit homefieldapparel.com and use promo code Stadium and Gale, all one word. The Florida Gators football account announced all of their spring ball 2022 awards with a bunch of different former Gators that they named them after. So I want to give a quick shout out to all of these guys. The Channing Crowder Headhunter Award goes to DeJuan Black, Ethan White, Jaquavion Fraziers, and Jordan Young. Any thoughts on any of those guys for the Channing Crowder Headhunter Award?
Sounds like targeting.
Yeah. That'd be sound like the guy that's the guy for targeting. If there was ever so thing. How did they come up with these awards?
I don't.
This
to be
is,
honest with you, I
year?
don't know.
So
I've
this
never
is,
heard of this before.
It's interesting because we had had a chance to talk to Steve Spurrier, and it's something we talked to him right before the spring game. It's something that he did when he was at Florida, and he thought they did the exact same thing. It was halftime of the spring game. They would give all these awards, and there's a lot of guys like Kingsley Eguakun is a starter. He's going to be like a 3-year starter by the time he's done at Florida. A guy like Gervon Dexter getting the defensive lineman award, he's going to get awards, but there's a lot of walk-ons or guys that won't have their name in headlines, and it's an opportunity for them to get acknowledged in front of a crowd for their efforts in practice. And something Spurrier said he loved doing. And I think that Billy Napier is doing a lot of things that Steve Spurrier did. That being one of them. Steve Spurrier told me that winner of the spring game would get a steak dinner. The loser would get beans. And then sure enough, the winners of the spring game had lobster, mac and cheese, New York strips, crab legs, all the fixins, and the losers they looked like Hawaiian rolls, which is a nice touch, but it was like cocktail weenies and beans, and that was their dinner. So he's doing a lot of things that Steve Spurrier did, and I just don't know if it's things that were like publicized that Spurrier did or things that maybe today's fan knows that Spurrier did, but there's a lot of like callback to the Steve Spurrier era from Billy Napier.
Yeah, I don't know if it was public. We didn't have Twitter back then, so
probably
obviously
good for a lot of people.
Yeah, Elon Musk's new Twitter. So we got the Chris Doering I Like to Practice Award. Never knew that Chris Doering was a big practice fan, but hey, good to know. Goes to Justin Shorter, Donovan McMillan, Tyreek Sapp, and Dejon Reynolds. Nick, know anything about this award, or is this just people that were happy every day to go to practice?
Just coming to practice with a good attitude.
Yeah. No Allen Iverson on that list.
No, not on that list. It's not the Allen Iverson Practice Award.
It's not the Allen Iverson Practice Award. Jack Young,
Iverson is right, though. It is just practice.
It is. It's not a game.
It's not, bro. Like, it's a practice All-Americans, bro.
Let's see. The Jack Youngblood Defensive Lineman Award goes to Gervon Dexter. The Lomas Brown Offensive Line Award goes to Kingsley Eguakun. The Joe Hayden Defensive Back Award goes to Trevez Johnson and Jason Marshall. This one's interesting. The Emmitt Smith Running Back Award goes to Montrell Johnson. You guys surprised by that?
No, I mean, he don't want to play the whole game, playing with both teams. I mean, he's probably the MVP of the whole game, bro. He was swapping uniforms and whatnot. A kid gonna be good.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to see him.
These guys can eyeball some talent, man. I'm gonna tell you that. The guys they had transfer over from Louisiana, they could play in the SEC. The SEC caliber guys, so they can eyeball some talent.
Absolutely. The Danny Werfel Most Improved Award goes to Dante Zanders, which I think is very much a given. Michael Tarquin, Derek Wingo, Jaden Hill, and Princely Uman Milan. I think a lot of people are excited to see every single one of those folks this year, and all of them will definitely be needed. Jaden Hill coming off injury, Princely coming back and taking a new defensive end spot, Dante Zanders with a huge opportunity at tight end, Michael Tarquin obviously trying to fill out the rest of this offensive line, and Derek Wingo, spoke about him about 5 minutes ago there and at linebacker. The Tim Tebow Leadership Award goes to Rashard Torrance. Marco Ortiz, we got our first walk-on. Who is Marco Ortiz, Nick? Do you know off the top of your head?
Marco Ortiz is a former walk-on, long snapper.
Yes.
And shout out to him. He just got engaged over the weekend.
Oh, shout out to him. So if my numbers are correct, Florida has 2 scholarship long snappers, correct?
Yes.
Currently. Okay. Trent Whittemore and Naquan Wright. on there for the Tim Tebow Leadership Award. Good to see Naquan on there after being out of practice this spring. The coach or the Vernell Brown Culture Award, Amari Burney, Antoine Powell Ryland, Jeremy Crawshaw, Nick's favorite, Richard Garage, and Desmond Watson. And the Riedel Anthony Receiver Award goes to Xavier Henderson, a guy that we didn't hear a ton about during practice this season, but obviously did a great job in the coach's eyes. Almost there, guys. The Wilbur Marshall Linebacker Award goes to Ventrell Miller. The Community Service Award goes to Chief Borders and Josh Braun. The Steve Spurrier, I did not know this is this many awards. The Steve Spurrier Commitment to Excellence Award goes to Trey Dean, Osiris Torrance, Brenton Cox Jr., and Lorenzo Lingard, all 4 players that are absolutely going to be relied on heavily this year. The Lewis Oliver, who we're working on to get on Stadium and Gale, Outstanding Non-Scholarship Player Award goes to Adam Milak, Noah Keeter, Khalil Jackson. Say what?
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, Justin Curtis, Mark Pitts, Justin Pielick, and Taylor Spirito. And the Fred Taylor Most Improved Freshman Award.
That's 2 Belglies back to back. 2 Belgley awards back to back.
They did it for you, baby.
Gold, man. Is the Silk Award next?
The Silk Award is next. Biggest internet troll. You're much more than that these days.
I'm trying to think on the team who will give that to, man. This is the house that trolling built, man. This is the house that trolling built, bro. I'm trying to think. Well, who on the team is a great troller? I think about it. I come back to you by the end of the show. I'll give you a guy for my award. Go ahead, Dan.
The Most Improved Freshman Award, Jack Miller. Nick, Jack Miller is considered a freshman?
Probably getting into some like weird COVID stuff there. I think redshirt freshman.
Okay, with an extra year. I gotcha. Cameron Waits, the transfer from Louisiana. Justice Boone, who I know a lot of players and coaches are very bullish on. Austin Barber, Devin Moore, which is the only freshman of this new class, and Jeremiah Scooby Williams. So congratulations to all of those young men.
I'm gonna give Scoob's back him on. I'm gonna give Scoob it, man. Scoob got he's a little bit of a troll on Twitter, man. I give Scoob's my Silk Troll Player of the Year so far right now, man. Spring edition. Scoob's.
Very good. We have a live announcement that's happened during the show, not huge, but Chris Howard, Gators walk-on kicker, has decided that he will be entering the transfer portal. So
what say you, Nick?
6-year guy. I think he was a former walk-on. I'm not sure if he was on scholarship. I think he was.
I don't think he was, but I could
maybe not. But I mean, at this point, you're graduated. He's got 1 year to play. He will use his COVID-free year next year for a 6th and final year. He appeared in 9 games last year, 4 for 4 an extra point. And I think 1 for 1. I don't know how many PATs. But an honor roll guy, has a degree from the University of Florida, so good for him. Hopefully he finds a home and has somewhere to kick footballs in 2022.
Yeah, if you're a 6-year kicker, man, just go travel, bro. Go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Check out some new cheeks, man. Check the scenery. Why not?
I wonder if he's just going to go to whatever the best school is to help him finish his master's degree, you know? This is where I start to look at your Dukes and your Wake Forests and your Stanfords.
That sounds all right.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that's that news. Let's see. We need to shout out 2 more sponsors. Alumni Hall. Go visit them, alumnihall.com. Use promo code. Hold on. I think it's SG20 at checkout.
Scroll right under you. SG20.
Yeah, it's scrolling right under me. And there it goes. SG20 at checkout. You'll get 20% off of your order from now until June 15th. Even if it's not UF stuff, I think Alumni Hall represents about 18 different schools. So you can use that at checkout as well. Again, promo code SG20 for 20% off of your orders at Alumni Hall. until June 15th.
Y'all holler at them people before June 15th, man. I got a tape if y'all got time, real quick.
Yeah, we got time.
I think the staff should have put more importance and more emphasis when they got here recruiting on Jaden Gibson, considering what our wide receiver room looked like. He's Gator pretty much blood, and what he just did in the spring game. And I'm not going to harp on this anymore, but I think that was just I think he should have just been chased a little bit harder. But shout out to Jaden Gibson. He had a good spring game. That's my take.
You didn't need to chase him. You just need to call him once.
Yeah, whatever. I don't know. I don't want to speculate.
Right.
Yeah, I'm glad you said it, Nick. But I thought he was. I said when they didn't retain him, I thought he was a special talent. I didn't get that. Just a blue chip type player. I thought he should have been chased and just he should have felt how important he was, considering what our wide receiver room was, what Jacob Copeland, what his mind was at the time. I mean, life goes on, but I do want to acknowledge that. That kid got players transferring out of Oklahoma. Wide receivers is just hitting the portal right now because of him. He's fresh on campus.
Yeah, no, I think that we talked about it in December, but Jaden Gibson, in my opinion, was one of the best wide receivers of this class, and it was disappointing to not see him in the class. I know that he wanted to play at the University of Florida, so I think that he's going to be a great player. It would have been great, especially considering where Florida's depth is at wide receiver, and being able to have a guy like him potentially step up, whether it be as a freshman or definitely as a sophomore and junior. But that kid's going to be very good at Oklahoma. And it was definitely somewhat sad to see him go, what was it, 94 yards on that touchdown. So but
the moment of silence there, Dan.
Nick, I was waiting for your take. But
moment of silence.
A moment of silence for Jaden Gibson. Didn't die, not killing anybody like Nick and Silk did today, but definitely a good player. Let's see. I believe the Gators also grabbed a preferred walk-on today. Kid by the name of Cruz Rushing. He's a 3-star defensive back. He's going to be, like I said, a preferred walk-on. He's also the older brother to 2024 legacy Elijah Rushing. So seems to be a good player. Like I said, was a 3-star. So certainly will be interesting to see if he has an opportunity to play at the University of Florida, but always welcome our preferred walk-ons to the University of Florida. His dad, I believe, was in Steve Spurrier's first recruiting class at the University of Florida. So welcome to Gator Nation, Cruz Rushing. Also want to congratulate men's tennis, who took down Kentucky 4-0 in men's tennis, winning the SEC title for the second year in a row. Currently ranked number 3 in the country. And will be on track to be competing for another back-to-back national championship. So congratulations to them. And then also congratulations to the women's lacrosse program that won their 11th consecutive AAC conference title. I believe that's every year they've been in existence. So that's a pretty neat honor for Amanda and her team at the University of Florida women's lacrosse program. Any other topics of conversation? Nick, I know you want to talk a little bit baseball.
No, not really. Florida's got
same issue, right? Just bullpen and blown leads.
So listen, Tennessee's really good. They're the number 1 team in the country for a reason. They're 17-1 in the SEC. The only team they haven't swept this year is Alabama. Friday night was a story I've seen a bunch of times now where somebody, it's just one bad inning. The Tuesday at FSU, you give up 5 runs in the second and you only allow 3 hits the rest of the game. Friday against Tennessee was 7 runs in the second inning, and then it's a really competitive game after that. But at that point, it's 7-0. And Saturday, you get a great start from Brandon Sproat, and kind of just the bullpen falls apart. You're literally one out away from winning on Sunday, and you give up 3 runs to force extras in the 9th. So it's been an issue with the bullpen. The problem is that this team just seems to find ways to lose games. The big thing right now with Florida is, and I pushed back against people all year saying, this team's not going to make the tournament. Well, now Florida's 6-12 in the SEC. I think you need to get to 13 wins. So you only have 12 more games. You only have 12 more games, 4 more SEC series. So you need to win 7 of those 12 games to get to 13. And the schedule does get easier. You have Kentucky this week, at Mississippi State, Missouri, and then South Carolina at home. There are 7 wins in there, but I've seen this Florida team lose games that they shouldn't lose, or find ways to lose games that they were winning. So it's tough. You're not going to have Hunter Barco, your Friday night guy, the rest of the year, with elbow discomfort. Not sure if he is going to need Tommy John surgery, but that would be pretty devastating for him, considering he is a high-level Major League Baseball draft prospect coming up this year. So hoping the best for him. Hopefully it doesn't need surgery, and it's just, a precaution for him and the rest of his career. But Florida's going to have to move the pitching staff around. Brandon Sproat's going to be your Friday night guy now. Brandon Neely, who's a freshman, he carried a no-hitter against Tennessee for 6 1/3 innings, pitched incredibly, set a career high for strikeouts with 8, and innings pitched with 7+, and doesn't factor in the decision on Sunday. He'll be on Saturday, and then the Sunday guy moving forward is going to be, might be Johnny Holstaff, and I don't know who will pitch on Sundays. We're going to have to try to figure that out. So it's certainly not the best situation for Florida. It's the worst SEC start in Kevin O'Sullivan's 15 years. And it's been a weird year for me, because I think Florida is significantly more talented than what they're putting out on the field and what their record shows.
Sad and disappointing. Women's softball was also swept this weekend. Nick, I think you and I were talking about it before the show. The first time this has happened since 2006 that both men's and women's men's baseball and softball were swept
at home
the same weekend. Yeah, at home. So,
which would have been Tim Walton's first year, and Kevin O'Sullivan was still at Clemson.
Yeah, definitely sad. Last thing before we get into Manscaped ad read, NFL.com put out a mock draft. Again, this is one of hundreds, if not thousands, of mock drafts that are out there. But with the draft on Thursday of this week, they have Kyer Elam going number 27 27th overall, to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which would be certainly close to home for him. Damian Pierce, they have him going all the way to round 5, pick 153 to the Seattle Seahawks. I think that'd be a great fit for him. Zach Carter, also in the 5th round at pick 170 to the New England Patriots. And then they have Jeremiah Moon at pick 236 in the 7th round. Obviously, a lot of mock drafts. We don't know what these teams are thinking, but certainly, those are probably the 4 biggest names to look out for on draft night. Silk, your Jaguars have the first pick. Who do you think they're taking?
There's a lot of disputes, man. I don't even really care, Dan. Yeah. That's where I'm at with it.
That's rough.
Yeah, I don't really care.
It's tough.
Does this?
You just seen this Urban Meyer shenanigans just took me more into the owner. I just think we need a new owner, bro. I'm just not believing this guy know what the hell he's doing. The culture is off. If they don't figure it out this time, I wouldn't mind if they just going across the pond. That's my take. They just need new ownership, man. I'm not feeling it. I don't care who they draft right now. The coach, I'm not just feeling the organization from that standpoint. Mm-hmm. So I'm not invested in the draft. I think they're split on that right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely a lot of names being thrown out there. In my opinion, this seems like one of the least hyped NFL drafts we've had in what I think is a very long time. Would you guys agree? Just doesn't seem like the top end talent is
Probably also though, Dan, us being
Yeah.
Dolphins fans and having no picks until like the third.
Well, we got Tyreek
Down-
Hill as my
down
first and second
quarterback,
round
for
pick,
sure.
so I'm okay with that.
Our first and second round pick.
Yeah, I'll take Tyreek Hill against what the Dolphins would have drafted
in
the
this
first,
draft,
second
for
round.
sure. In this draft, for sure.
Yes, at pick 29 and pick 50, I like Tyreek Hill better than whoever Chris Greer would have drafted. Yes.
Wild that he's still the GM.
Yeah, definitely. But
Killing people and firing people. What a show.
yeah, all in one fell swoop. Silk, why don't you take us out with a Manscaped ad read? And Nick, you have the song of the week, I believe.
Shout out to the great folks at manscaped.com. Be sure to use coupon code 20SG at checkout for 20% off. It's officially ball sweating season out here in these streets, man. It's warm. It's April. It's muggy. Slight breeze out, but you better have that ball deodorant on deck before you leave the house in this type of weather, man. It's April. We stepping into May. A light towel could be used, but Manscaped don't provide the towels, but they do provide ball deodorant, Lawnmower 4.0, which is the best of the best, keep them balls smooth. They sweat a little better when they not as hairy, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. Use coupon code 20SG at checkout for 20% off. Weed Whacker. Nick got one of those now. Welcome to the clean nose and the clean ear streets and team. Nick.
Thank you. Thank you for the warm welcome.
Welcome to the club, Nick. Oh, man.
Welcome's always warm around here, Nick.
Nick, take us out with the song of the week, my friend.
He's been waiting, man, for so long. He's been like, he hijacked it twice.
Yeah.
He's been waiting for so long. What do you got? What do you
Yeah,
got?
he let the internet know already.
Yeah, it so I was just in the car at a stoplight when Apple Music was like, what's new? Liked the album art, so clicked on it, started listening, just started bumping him, listened to the whole album, I think through twice.
Yo.
Text Silk and said, hey, heard of this guy, found a new guy for song of the week. He goes, oh, you've been sleeping on him. I'm like, oh, I thought he was new. How do you say the name? Silk responds, I don't know, fam. I got nothing for you. So I had to do some research for song of the week. Shout out to Big Boy on his radio show. The artist name is Blast, spelled BLXST. That is that's how you spell Blast. So the song is Couldn't Wait for It, featuring Ricky Rose, Rick Ross. Couldn't Wait for It by Blast.
Sounds like a good song. I'm excited for this one for tomorrow.
You know, if Renzel on it's finna be fire.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Everything Ross puts out is fire.
Already. Same corner, same time?
Same corner, same time. See you boys next week.